Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I have another fabulous guest with me today. I have Donna Mariella. Welcome. It is so great to have you.
Hi, Kimberly. It's so nice to be here and to see what we chat about today.
Yeah, I'm excited. Donna is a fellow Vita sex, love, and relationship coach with me, who's also a leadership, sexuality, and relationship coach, is her title that she goes by. And I'm so excited, actually. We've been recording, I was just sharing before the episode, just sharing that, we've been recording since June, and this is, now the middle of November, and we'll probably be going to like next March, April, May, June, probably a year, probably, with other fellow sex, love, and relationship coaches all through the Vita program through Layla Martin, which I think is so amazing because what I was seeing in the last many years is not everybody understands Tantra, right? They Google the word Tantra, and the first thing that comes up is sex, and it's not accurate. There's so much more to Tantra. And yet, there's so many of us coaches. I don't know how many so far, but eventually we'll probably hit like 56 in how many weeks, or 52 weeks in the year. We're probably going to cover that many podcasts on Tantra. And I love this because we're each taking the same training and we're each taking the same tantric philosophies and using them in our own lives, but then also using them with our clients and using them to show them the different ways that they can come back to their body, reclaim the places they've been disempowered, reconnect to their body, sexuality, sensuality, and really remember who the fuck they are and step into their unapologetic power. Like that is kind of my breakdown of what we're doing. We're reclaiming, we're reconnecting, and we're remembering who we are. And there's this unshakable power that comes from this remembrance when it comes from deep within, from our pelvic bowl, not in a sexual sense, but in an intuitive sense, in a this is our power center as a female identifying human, right down in womb, in pelvic bowl. This is where, people say, listen to your gut. No, it's actually listen to your feminine parts, your pussy, your womb, all of this for men. Yes, listen to your gut. But for women, it's like a little lower. Let's go a little lower. It's still kind of our gut. We still kind of grab, I'm doing it right now, just above or just below belly button. And like, this is my gut, but that's where your womb, that's where your power center lays. And total side rant here. But I love this that we're coming in and we're sharing and we're, trying to help you listeners understand all of the different facets of Tantra, all of the different ways that you can play with it, all of the different ways that you can invite it into your life to help you heal, to reclaim, to reconnect, to remember, to become really deeply confident in who you are, to start showing up in who you are, asking for what you need, creating boundaries, feeling your emotions, being your most erotic, creative, sexual, sensual self. It's all possible. Another total side rant. Wow, rants are just coming out of me today. I love it. But what I'm thinking we're going to drop into here with Donna is really navigating turmoil and stress using pleasure as medicine. So I'm really excited to dive into this. It's not a new topic for me. I love playing with pleasure, and I know Donna does too. And this is a key piece, I think, that is missing from most of our lives until it's not. So welcome again, Donna.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this is such a beautiful topic and such an important topic because so often I notice that people, when they're in those hardest points of their lives, the first thing to go is like play. It's pleasure. It's, oh, I
Mm.
don't have time for play. I don't have time for pleasure. I don't have time to connect to myself. And yet, what I have found in both with my clients, but also with myself and in my own life, when I'm going through the hardest times, the more that I anchor into that playfulness, that pleasure, whatever form that's taken as a tool, the more that I can actually show up to what's happening in a way that doesn't feel disempowered, in a way that actually feels like, wow, I am still running my life. I'm still in power in my life. So, yeah.
Mhm. Yes, that is so, so key. And there's a few reasons for this, right? Like one, pleasure is nervous system regulating. It's grounding. It's bringing you back to your frontal cortex, which is your thinking brain, right? So when we are going through stress, when we're being triggered by family members or work or kids or partner or ex or whatever it may be that we're dealing with, very quickly, if we're triggered, our frontal, main brain, that is the part that we use every single day, goes offline. And we actually can't think straight. So we're ungrounded and we're just kind of reacting instead of actually locked in and perceiving what's around us and then responding. We're actually reacting. And it's amazing what pleasure will do. It's a really natural grounding that happens that brings us back in our body, that brings us back in our power, that fills our tank back up. Like I like to look at it as a gas tank. It puts our gas tank back up to full. And then we're like, oh, okay, yeah, I know what to do with that. I was really getting a little spirally out over there before, but actually if I just do this, this, and this, I will be okay. So pleasure is really powerful in that way. Really powerful.
Really is an untapped like resource, and people often talk about this idea of resilience. So what is it to be resilient to life? And yeah, actually resilience is totally dependent on how full our tank is. And so our
Mm.
level of resilience to the world will change depending on how filled up we are. And so for us to go out into the world and to face, and I work with a lot of like visionaries and leaders with really high intensity jobs, and to hold that level of responsibility, to hold that level of intensity, like high level stimulation with resilience, you want to be filled up, because if not, you're running on empty. There's almost this sense of catching up. Whereas actually, when we prioritize pleasure, and pleasure can be our sexual, sensual pleasure, but I also want to name that pleasure can also just be that soothing, that calming, that quiet type of pleasure. Just whatever it is that's going to fill up your tongue, that's going to fill up your nervous system. Then when we go out into the world and we hold these really big things, because honestly, I mean, being a human isn't exactly the easiest ride in the world. It can be pretty intense. And so when we're in this intensity, we have fuel, we have a capacity to like face it, to be with it. And at least in my experience, the more I do it, I can even begin to like enjoy it. There's like a playfulness that I can bring into it without taking away from the seriousness of whatever it is, but being able to bring almost this playful sense of, okay, I'm living this human experience and there's something really intense happening. And how can I actually show up in a way that is also fun in some way?
Mhm. Mhm. That is so good. And I loved you said in the beginning, untapped resource. Yes, yes, yes. It literally is an untapped resource. It's available to all of us. It's actually a choice. We get to choose, this is an uncomfortable circumstance here in front of me. This is an uncomfortable day at work. This is an uncomfortable thing I got to deal with my kids or my ex or whatever. How can I make it more pleasurable so I can be more resource is a good thing. And it's this untapped resource that we can actually, yeah, tap into, and to me, it brings me home in my body. It brings me back to my core. It brings me back to my truth. It brings me back to my power when I can tap into pleasure as this untapped resource. And I do want to speak to it too, though, because I've seen, I guess, people on social media saying, all this pleasure, 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 we're bypassing the shit. No, we're not bypassing. We actually also are working with our clients and ourselves, teaching them how to feel their emotions, how to feel your rage, how to feel your grief, how to feel your fear. And we're processing those at the same time. And we're holding our inner child and we're, feeling all of that. And we're also using pleasure. It's an and, it's not a one or the other. It's a whole combination of both. But I just wanted to name that we are not using pleasure to bypass everything else. It's not toxic pleasure-based positivity. Not at all. We are feeling all our feels. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really happy that you actually brought that up and to bring in the differentiation, because it's also the type of pleasure, right? It's almost
Yes.
the method that we're trained in. It's accessing pleasure through presence. So not through disconnection or escapism, not through like numbing out even more, but actually through bringing in more awareness to what is. And I also actually want to name the fact that it's pretty understandable why our pleasure shuts down when we're stressed, because ultimately our nervous system is overwhelmed. We have this sensorial overwhelm. We don't want to feel anymore. And actually, pleasure can be quite intense. And so it is quite normal to be in numbness, to be in shutdown when things are really intense. The type of pleasure that we work with, and the type of, it's really more like a meditation in many ways. It's using our body, it's using our pleasure in a way to come into exactly what is in our bodies, and to then almost alchemize it and find the beauty that lives there. And so it's very normal for us to be numb, to be shut down. But the way that we actually access pleasure isn't by okay, I'm going to go and let's say we're doing a self pleasure practice to access pleasure. I'm not going to go and like force my body into pleasure and basically try to override the fact that there's numbness and shutdown. It's actually sinking deeper into the numbness, into the shutdown, and finding the pleasure in the numbness, finding the pleasure
Mhm.
in the shutdown. And that's what begins to open more of that beautiful pleasure resourcefulness. And that's why I wanted to differentiate earlier the type of pleasure, that it can be quiet. Sometimes I know when I'm in a really intense period, for me, a pleasure practice looks like laying, listening to music, and just holding myself in stillness. Like that's all
Mm.
it is. It's just,
Mhm.
oh, what does my body crave right now? Like if I could truly listen to my body in this moment, what is it craving more than anything? And sometimes it's just rest and to be held.
Yeah.
So yeah, it isn't necessarily this idea of like we're going in, like we're gonna feel pleasure and push it out and force it in there. It's a bit softer than that.
I love that you name that. And I love that you talked about alchemizing our pain and our grief and our rage and our fear and everything like that, and finding the pleasure inside, because that is it. We can be in the deepest, biggest rupture of our lives and still access pleasure. But as you said, most of us are taught how to disconnect because we don't want to feel anymore. It's too much. It feels overwhelming. We feel basically our nervous system is, fear of our life, right? We don't feel safe, we don't feel loved, we don't belong. So we'll do everything to go back to find those things. And this can leave us really disconnected. It's like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to, put some blinders on and just not feel that right now. Push it away, push it down. And something different happens when we alchemize it and when we bring in pleasure. And again, pleasure can be so many different things. We'll go ahead and we'll list some of those in a moment, but it's what you need. It's what, like you said, what if you ask your body right now, what do you need? What would feel really good right now? What, and just check in. Now, again, we have to take a step back and go, well, I don't know what my body needs. So first, that's some of the first things we do. We teach our clients and ourselves in our process of, what does your body need? How do you learn to listen to your body? That one's really key too. You have to be able to listen. So this is what we do. We teach our clients how to listen to body, how to feel all the emotions, even when they feel way too big and too overwhelming. And again, we're not overwhelming and blowing us out. We're going very, very slow, as slow as your body needs to go to stay grounded and regulated. And then we're checking in. Okay, you've learned how to listen. Now, what do you need? What do you really need? What didn't you receive that you really desired? Can you give that to yourself? And as you said, it can be, I used to love laying in the bath listening to music. Like that was my go-to last year, pretty well every single day. Interestingly enough, not so much this year. I don't need the same, but water is very, very grounding and pleasurable to me. I could take it further and do a breathwork session in the bathtub. I could take it further and do a pleasure practice. Sometimes I did bone breathing, working through deep healing sounds and deep healing holding in the bathtub. Doesn't matter what it was. The bathtub was one of my deeply held pleasure spaces that would fill up my tank. And sometimes I'd sit in there for 2 or 3 hours. I'd have to top up the water extra. And people are like, I don't have 2 or 3 hours. Well, neither did I. I was doing work in the bathtub, maybe social media, maybe it was late at night, whatever it may be. But it was just, I actually needed that much resourcing, is what we sometimes call it and refer to it as. I needed that to hold me, or I wasn't going to be able to put my next foot in front of the other.
And I love that
Yeah.
you can even recognize that you could recognize that, because sometimes we're going through those extra difficult periods where actually the best thing, the only thing we can do is resource. And yes, we show up to our responsibilities, but ultimately surviving it, like helping our nervous system to move through the huge transitions or changes that we're moving through, is the priority, especially for a longer term health and recovery.
Mhm.
I work with quite a lot of people through grief. So grief is something that is very alive in my practice. And this idea of when people are in grief or in these huge, really challenging transitions where their whole reality is basically shattering, right? Your whole perspective of reality shatters when you're in a state of grief. There's often this desire to be on the other side, to be back in. I want to be productive, or I want to be feeling good, I want to be feeling the joy. And yet sometimes actually to come home and to just have that compassion of, this is a period of time where life is presenting you with all that you can do is resource. And yes, show up to your responsibilities as best as you can. It doesn't mean that we let everything go and our life falls apart, but to prioritize that resourcing so that actually when the time comes, once you've moved through that transition, you have the energy and the capacity to move into a more productive or a more feeling state. And
Or
as
more creative or whatever that may be,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And as
Mm.
recognize, like sometimes it needs to be a few hours, and that doesn't mean instead of you're doing it as you're working, you're just prioritizing it. Yeah,
Yeah.
you actually mentioned at the beginning of the call the whole how many people see tantra just as sex, and yeah, actually what we're speaking about here to me is so much of the essence of tantra, which is, can you learn to find the sacred and the beauty in everything? That non-dual, that non-duality, that non-dual path of not just when we sit down in meditation, or not just when we go into a practice and when our room is silent and all of the conditions are perfect to find that point of beauty and bliss and non-duality. But actually, what is it to find it in like real human life, like the complexity and the messiness and the intensity and the triggers and our humanity and other people's humanity? And like, what is it to be able to almost go into those spaces, like the spaces of stress, the spaces of intensity, and within there still have access to beauty, to pleasure, to the sacred, really. And so,
Peace. Yeah. Inner
yeah,
peace.
yeah,
Inner, I got this.
yeah.
Confidence. Yeah. It's all in there. And it's interesting because I'm thinking like it seems so far away from people before they've started this work. I remember me. It was like it seems so far away. I have no clue what, even myself, future self is talking about here. If I went back 10 years looking at myself talking right now, I'm like, I had no fucking clue what you're talking about. Right? Because it seems so far away. And yet it is actually always with us. It's always been within us. It's always been with us since we were born on this planet, maybe even created like an embryo, right? Like it's been here with us. And yet, society, conditioning, culture, whatever it may be, has put on a whole pile of muck, a whole pile of blinders on us, telling us that no, 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 don't listen to yourself. Don't trust yourself. I know better, right? Like you need this cream, you need this product, you need this, you need to, take care and eat better. You need to do all of these things because you're actually not good enough. And we're going to show, there's a whole mixed messaging that's comes through media and so forth. And yet our power and our strength and our truth has always been within us. So it's actually not that far away as you may think. However, life, trauma, circumstances, conditioning, all is kind of just packed up on top of it. So as coaches, that's a lot of what we're doing is using the tools, the inner child work, the breath work, the somatics work, the body work to slowly peel away these layers that aren't truly you, that aren't the authentic you. And then what you discover underneath is the true you, which already knows all of this stuff, which is the beautiful, beautiful part of Tantra because it's already within you. I do love that piece.
That's really beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, it actually has me tuning into, as you were talking, I was actually thinking a bunch of journeys that I've even been through with clients. And it really always comes down to this sense of how willing, not even willing, but how much can we remember to keep coming home to ourselves and to be with ourselves and to remember. And I know that I even catch myself, and I've been on this path for a very long time and I'm pretty devoted, and I still catch myself sometimes where I'm just
Yeah.
running. There's this sense of like I'm running away from that which I know already, and I know exactly where to find it. I know how to get there, and I will still sometimes run and choose to almost create my stability, my anchors, my power on these outside sources.
Absolutely.
And it's so funny because it's very, I mean, this is for me personally, but it can be quite convenient because then I have also something that I can blame it on sometimes. It's,
Mhm.
oh, well, there's an outside source that I can point to. But when I come home to myself, when I actually am staying in those spaces and I'm building that, the truth is, you feel unshakable. Like there's an unshakable element to it, which is, and I've been through some pretty intense deaths and griefs in the last few years. And so I've been through these really intense portals of transformation. And when you go through them, staying with yourself, so not escaping and running all the time, there's
Or
almost
numbing.
on numbing or switching. Like there's so many things that we do and we crave, then it really does. There's this sense of, wow, what can't I handle? Like
Mm,
there is a real sense of like, not power in terms of I'm powerful and showy, but an actual like, I trust myself. I deeply
mhm.
trust myself to be able to live and experience whatever life gives me. And maybe I'll falter, maybe I will shake a little, but maybe it will be intense and it might not be very enjoyable. But I trust that I won't get lost. I trust that I will continue to walk my path. And that level of trust to me is when I'm in it is such, it's like a deep power, much more
Yeah.
than anything external. It's such a deep knowing and a deep power.
Deep knowing and deep power is exactly, and I use that word as well, unshakable. It's like when you come back to your unshakable truth and you know you've got this no matter what. No matter what. And even going through, some of the stresses that I've been through in the last year with my divorce and ex and all of that. There's days, yeah, there's days definitely that where, or not, I'm going to not say days. There's moments in my days when shit hits the fan, right? Where I forget, where it's like, I'm triggered. I'm outright triggered. And I know it and I can feel it. And I have to lean into tools sometimes to go and release that anger, fear, and grief and then come back to pleasure. And other times my partner needs to, ground me and hold me. And he's like, whoa, 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 do, 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 do. And it's like, oh yeah, I forgot. Thank you. Like I just needed that grounding because that's it. I think we came to this earth forgetting how amazing and powerful we were. And then over and over and over, even though I've been studying and training and doing all this work for years now, even I do forget. Now we're momentarily, normally I'm back in it within an hour max, maybe even two, but really it's like a quick, and I know the go-to tools to bring myself back. So that is really, really, it's interesting. And again, no shame, right? Like we all go out, we all, get dysregulated, we all have chaotic moments, we all have this, but that pleasure, bringing back to pleasure and using pleasure as our medicine to reconnect, to remember, to reclaim these pieces within ourselves is so potent. It is so potent. And again, it's something that has to be felt. It is still so hard. Like I can hear you describing it and other coaches describing it. I'm like, yes, I get it. But if I was talking to my 10-year-old self, like 10 years back, I'd be like, huh? Like it's a feeling. Once you taste it, once you're like, oh, that's what they're talking about. There's no stopping you. And it doesn't take that long to feel that. Oh, does it?
No, it really doesn't. That's actually what I was gonna say next is it's something that I always love to say to people that I'm working with. It's not that far away. Like sometimes we just like, oh, it's so far away. It really
It's
isn't.
not.
There's almost just this permission that can happen. And I've seen it shift so quickly in people. I've seen like this drastic shifting because it really is just a willingness of presence of like much can we build our ability to stay and to feel. And actually talking about the pleasure and the triggeredness, and this is a little bit more advanced, although it can be really fun as well, because we all get triggered, we all get dysregulated, and there can even be pleasure in that. And what I've noticed is in the past, I definitely suffered a lot with like perfectionist tendencies. So I was hypercritical, hyper self-critical. So as soon as I fell off from doing what I know that I need to do, and I could see exactly what I needed to do, and I wasn't doing it, I would criticize myself. But again, that self-criticism, that self is a form of self-abandonment of once again, I'm running away from myself. I'm not actually taking care of myself. And I
Mm,
know that one of my practices, and I don't always choose this route, but sometimes it's, oh, there's actually a deep part of me that wants to be in the trigger. There's a deep part of me that actually
Mm,
wants to
yes.
be right now, like riled up or angry or pissed off. And when I do that, I've actually just come out of a very long-term relationship, but I used to tell my partner, I would tell him, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have an angry day. But it would be like playful. So now I'm getting to exaggerate the mood. And so let's say that I was grumpy, like a part of me just wanted to be grumpy and I wanted to be angry at life and annoyed at life. And even as I'm saying it, I'm feeling quite joyful because it's become a joyful thing now. When I choose to be grumpy and I get to just be grumpy and I get to, and I tell everybody who's involved, I let people know, and then it becomes like a playground. It's like, oh, I'm
Mm,
getting to pretend to be grumpy today, and I'm going to fully feel it, and I'm going to be really exaggerated with it because I'm going to be silly with it. I'm going to be like, I'm really
mm,
exaggerating the grumpiness. And I mean, I think you can see, even as I describe it, I'm like, oh, it's so enjoyable, it's so pleasurable. And so even the triggers can become enjoyable if we stop attacking ourselves for them, if we stop criticizing ourselves from them, and again, trying to change like this constant
forcing.
striving. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No more forcing. I love this. I'm hearing the grumpy and the sad and the angry and the and I'm actually, you tell me though, I'm hearing like the inner child. I'm hearing the inner teenager go, "Wah." I'm hearing the inner 3-year-old go, I don't want to. I'm hearing, or the no, it'd probably be no at the inner 3-year-old, but the 8, 9, 10 is I don't want to, and the teenager is no. Again, right? Like, so you're letting your inner children, whatever face wants to come out and play and be seen. And then I'm guessing you're also then, okay, now what do you need? Well, I just want to sit here and eat ice cream. Okay, well, then you go ahead and sit and eat ice cream. Now what do you need? I want to walk, whatever it may be. Like you're allowing and extra exaggerating and playing and allowing that part to be seen. And that is so healing in its own, because I'm guessing your inner children do not come out very much anymore after allowing them to fully come out like that.
No, they don't. And when they do, it's almost immediately joyful as well because they know that I'm going to let them. And as the adult in ourselves, we get to create the safe container that they need for their expression. And that's my responsibility. If, for example, my inner teenager, who is probably the more challenging of, I mean, I think most people's inner teenagers are often the most challenging. If my inner teenager is desiring to come out and it's not a safe environment for her to do so, then I get to take care of that. I get to
Mm,
choose, okay, not right now. And I've also built this level of relationship with my inner parts that she knows that I will at another point. So if I'm saying no right now, it's because it's for her own safety. Whereas
yeah, it's not
actually,
a good
I might
time.
be able to create a whole container and tell people and set up what I need and make sure that I've done all of my work calls for the day so that I can not think about anything productive, do whatever it is that I need. And that's my job as the adult in the yeah
Yeah.
system.
I love this. And for those who are listening, yeah, this is the work we do. We teach you how to listen to your inner child. We teach you how to feel sensations in your body and learn how to decipher what they mean. We teach you how to listen to your needs. And what comes also with your needs is conditioning of, oh, well, that's too much. Who am I to do that? Right. So we teach you then also how to separate from, what is truth? What is conditioning? What is limiting beliefs? What is you not setting boundaries? What is you not taking care of yourself? Where are you not actually meeting yourself? Where are you self abandoning? And bring you back all of these pieces, the faucet of pleasure, using tantra, using inner child work, using somatics, using body work, using all of it. And it's such a powerful practice. I have never in my lifetime, I'm almost 49, seen anything in a body of work more powerful actually in my life. And I come from extensive childhood trauma and so forth through those years. And it has allowed me to alchemize, to heal, to transform, to bring peace, to create boundaries, to speak my truth, to be grounded, even when it's hard. It has allowed me to do all of this and to create the life that I love and desire. It has allowed me to do all of it. And wow, what a difference. What a difference. It's almost like I'm living a different life in the last 10 years now. Like from 10 years ago to now, I am living a different life, because before I was disempowered and disconnected and depressed a lot of the time and doubting myself and struggling and frustrated and mad and wondering what was wrong with me. Versus now, it's like, oh, I got this. What
Yeah.
else you got? Right. And the relationship that's come with it, and the connection and the vulnerability and the being seen. My inner child is met on so many levels, but now, if it's not by me, by my partner, sure, I can meet myself on all those levels as well. But there's another whole level then to show up and be met by a partner in that way, where you're like, fuck, this is actually possible. That speaks to the work that we've done and the work that we lead our clients through of what is possible. You can show up and create whatever life you want.
Yeah. And something that I really love about this body of work, and actually I think is one of the reasons it's so deeply powerful, is because we're not coming from this like perspective of there's something broken that we need to fix. It's not like you're coming into the space and okay, we're gonna like get you to here because you're broken and this is how you fix it. But actually, when we come into this space, it's a remembrance that none of us are broken. Like none of us are
Mhm.
broken. We're just have, like you said, there's a lot of conditioning, there's a lot of pieces that are there that often are actually helpful in many ways. And just it's just rearranging the pieces for it to meet whatever you want it to be. And I often think about it as it's a reclamation of life. Like you get to reclaim your life again. You get to reclaim feeling how you want to feel, making the choices you want to make, having the relationships you want to have. Um, Instead of everything that everybody else has told us and the world has told us, but actually being able to tune back into, oh, okay, if I'm not broken and this is actually my true self, what do I want? And then you get to live the life that you want. And of course, external circumstances might be whatever they are because we do live a human life. We live a life where things are unexpected and challenging things happen. So it isn't about even changing our external life. It's about us experiencing it, us reacting to it, us making the choices that we want to make. And that does often change the external quite a bit as well. But it isn't necessarily about that. It's your internal choices.
Yeah. And feeling them, really feeling them, and giving yourself to feel all of your feelings, everything, because none of them are wrong. And and then alchemizing it all with pleasure, which is the most delicious part. And no, it doesn't need to be all sexual pleasure, right? If you've skipped forward and didn't hear that last time, no, it's not all sexual pleasure. It can be, and it also can't be. It can be both. There's so many different faucets of pleasure, and pleasurable things are different things to everybody. So it's actually, again, working with you to find your pleasure. What will fill your cup? What do you need? Um, there's so many pieces. Is there anything else you want to say on there about your pleasure being medicine and what your pleasure can be?
Yeah, I'd actually like to touch even more on this idea that pleasure is so different for everyone because I know that
Mm.
on my journey towards finding pleasure, so I had a I've had quite an intense life, which meant that I was quite shut down at some point, like hyper strong. I was a very strong person. I could handle anything, but in this very repressed way. I could handle anything because I couldn't really feel it, and so I could handle it.
Yeah, I get that. I was the same, right? More in a rigid, very masculine, head
Yeah,
down, get the fuck out of my way, like
yeah.
kind of like bulldozer.
Yeah, yeah,
I was
and
there
it's
with
almost
you.
like
Yeah.
I'm unshakable, but I also can't feel anything, and so I
Yes.
remember there was almost like a separation from me and life. They're almost like this I would move through life and I didn't feel connected. I didn't feel the intimacy with life. I just felt strong in it. I felt stable, but there was like a disconnect. And so
There
when
was
I
also, sorry to interrupt there, was there also for you, I really want to touch on this, when you were alone, when you were, in bed, when you were having a moment, did you also deeply doubt and deeply not know what was wrong with you? Was there also this, I can't even word it. Do you have a word for it? Like, as much as we appeared strong, I actually like to call it fake. It was like I was fake strong to everybody else, but not inside. I was dying
yeah.
inside.
Yeah, definitely not inside. There were different periods on my journey because I was working. So there was definitely a point where I was basically falling to pieces on the inside.
Okay.
Then there was later on in my journey where I was stable on the inside, but again, there was almost this question, and I actually think of it a bit like existential crisis. There was this like, "Well, what's the point? Like, why am I here?
Yes.
Why am I so strong? Like, okay, I'm doing life, I'm doing the thing, I'm showing up to all the things that I need to do, and I'm actually doing a pretty good job. I was doing great, but what there was almost like this pointlessness. Like, okay, but
Mm.
why? Like,
Emptiness.
yeah, why am I working so hard? Like, what am I working for? Like, what's the point in this? Whereas right now, everything like has meaning. Like everything is so so beautiful, and it doesn't come from a mental state. It comes from the fact that I feel connected to life and alive with life.
An embodied state.
Yeah, in the body. But that
Yeah.
transition, like the discovery of pleasure, was actually like the rediscovery of pleasure, because we all have it when we're younger, was actually quite difficult for me, because for so long I had the mental concept of pleasure as this fiery, like electricity that's supposed to be, very intense. Like whenever I would be trying to find pleasure in my body, I would be looking for this very specific, like very yang, masculine, fiery quality. And when I've actually come to learn about my deep levels of pleasure, and I love the fieriness, but my deep, like most nourishing pleasure is very watery. It's
Mm.
really kind of slow and watery and like has this like deep water earthy quality to it. But I was looking for fire and electricity. And so
Mm.
the reason I even say that is because to just even notice if somebody is listening to this and they're like, okay, well, I don't know what my pleasure is. How do I resource? To even notice, what do you assume pleasure is? Like, what is the concept? Is there a concept that you have about pleasure, of what it's supposed to feel like or look like? Because while we are looking for our pleasure in comparison to something, it's very hard to access the pleasure that might already be there. So just wanted to mention that.
Yes. And the same thing is also, other questions to ask yourself of and journal on even all of these. What have you been taught about pleasure? Because there's a lot of mixed messaging and limiting beliefs that we actually have to disentangle as well around pleasure, right? You don't get anything until you're done your work. Well, we will never be done our work in this lifetime. So, according to who, right? We're always told do more, work longer, more hours, whatever. So, yeah, we have to disentangle of what have you been taught about pleasure? What were you told about pleasure? What were you shown? There's so many different pieces in there.
And there's even a belief that I see quite often in my clients that come in, which is that even this work to discover your pleasure or to feel your aliveness or to come into this like healthy relationship with the world, with yourself, with a partner, whatever it is, that it has to be hard. And so
Mm,
there's even this belief that, okay, well, if I choose to work on my pleasure, if I choose to work on my sexuality, on my liberation, on whatever it is that you're looking for, that it has to be hard. And yes, there's a level of commitment. I actually like the word devotion more. There's a level of devotion that that pulls you towards it, but it doesn't have to be hard. Like it actually gets to be, it can be pretty fun. I know that me and my clients have quite a
yep.
lot of fun. Like there's a lot of joy and playfulness. And so even these conditioning around like, do you believe that it has to be hard work, that it's another to-do list that's going to take energy? Because actually this kind of work really feeds us. It really nourishes us.
Hmm. I love that. It totally does. And a part where you were speaking there, it made me think of the hardness, right? Like going into the hardness. It made me think of how life becomes actually so much easier when we lean into our pleasure, when we trust ourselves, when we listen to intuition, pussy, pelvic bowl, whatever you want to call her. And we're like, are you sure that's what I'm supposed to do? And you're like, but that seems totally left wing compared to what I am doing right now. And your brain's like, this is crazy. When you lean in and listen to body and take the left or the right, whatever it may be, and you actually do follow and trust body, it actually becomes way easier. It's like things just start landing on your lap. You're like, oh, okay. Oh, Okay. And then you're trusting and you're trusting and you're trusting. And it's like everything just opens up into more ease, more pleasure, more flow. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And it goes against everything we've been taught. It does not have to be hard. And it actually, you know what? You can use your hardness, your life, the parts of your life that have been hard that you've been struggling with to date right now, maybe childhood, doesn't matter. You can use that. It's almost like it's your catalyst to play with these pieces and to alchemize them and to launch you into the best future you've ever imagined, right? Like it is the launch pad for alchemizing it and leaning into pleasure and bringing it all together. And from there, it does become so much easier. And it is not what everybody has been teaching us. It is not hard. It's brilliant. But again, another limiting belief and conditioning, it's hard. We've been taught this for so long. And I've experienced 1,000 times over. Nope, it actually becomes really easy and really fun.
Yeah.
And I still get to do life. I still do life. I still parent. I still partner. I still work. I still serve in so many different ways. And it's a much more satisfying, much more fulfilling, much more, oh, this is what I'm here to do, much more purpose aligned
Yeah.
satisfaction from it.
I love that you use the word purpose because so many people are often talking about, like, I don't know what my purpose is. And yet, actually, when you do this work, everything that you do becomes, in a way, part of your purpose because it's how
Mm,
you're living it, it's how you're experiencing it. And it's funny that you say, when you are able to listen to your body, I often think that the hardest part of it isn't what like a pussy, your pelvic bowl, your intuition is going to bring you. It's the point of saying yes. It's like that point where it's presented in front of you because I have seen it again and again, like the unimaginable happening. But there's always that point where it's like, are you willing to say yes? Are you willing to step out of your comfort zone? And as soon as you say yes, it's like so easeful. But that yes point can be the point which is tricky. And I think this comes back, at least for me, to that self-trust piece. Like, can you truly differentiate a no from resistance? Like, do you have enough self-awareness in your body to recognize when something is your intuitive no versus when something is just that excitement, nervousness, like resistance, or even I know that my resistance comes up often in like wanting to be comfortable. It's like, oh, but
mm.
I'm so cozy right now, and I need to say yes to something, and I know that I'm going to step into that, and on the other side, I'm going to be a completely new person again. And every time, it's a completely new person where my life is so much better, and like there's so many cool things and amazing stories and experiences, and just so much beauty. And so even when I know, it's like I know it's going to be amazing, but I'm so comfortable, and so that
Our
point.
resistance is so cute,
Yeah,
isn't it? It's
it
so
really
cute, but
is.
I don't want to. It's the
Yeah,
teenager again, but I don't want to.
yeah.
No, right? It's that inner teenager. And yeah, when the resistance shows up, you're generally right on the cusp of something huge. You just need to choose to lean in. So
Yeah.
thank you for naming that. So good. Can you share? We're going to drop all your links in the show notes, but can you share what you have going on, how people can work with you right now, and where they can find you?
Yeah, well, all my links will be in the show notes. My website is donnamariella.net, so just my name. You can find me on social media, although I'm not super active on social media at the moment. I'm considering doing it at some point as a playful art, but I'm very lucky in that I mainly work through referrals. But yeah, people can reach out. I do group programs with in collaboration. I do a lot of work with plants as well. And so working
Beautiful.
with embodiment and plant work, but for the winter, I'm kind of going into a little bit more of a quiet phase. I think I have 2 one-on-one slots currently open. So yeah, they can reach out, but it doesn't even need to be to work with me. If anybody wants to ask a question or if they just want to tell me stories, I love relationship. I love connecting. I love intimacy. And for me, the idea that there's people around the world just listening to this and
Hmm.
exploring these realms and exploring this investigation, just saying hi also makes me happy. And so, yeah, anyone can reach out.
I love that. You put that in such beautiful words. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, we offer these free coaching discovery calls to learn more about how you can work with us, but also you can just hop on and we can connect and chat and see what's going on. And, whether you want to work with us now or down the road, or you don't want to work with us, but you want to work with somebody else, we can refer you. There's so many different people that we know in this realm. And of course, you can always continue binging all of the episodes. There's like 4 years now of episodes. Are we in the fifth year? I think we're starting the fifth year. Tons of different work and things that you can connect to. And come, I guess when this is launching, this is coming out around November. Yeah, and I have no spots open at the moment, but in the new year, I will have a couple spots open for private coaching. And of course, there'll be some retreats coming up, which I'm so excited, in-person retreats coming up in the new year. And you can always check out getyoursexyback.ca, CA for Canada, because that's where I am located. And you can check out the Sacred Pleasure membership if you want to dip your toe into pleasure and start playing and exploring. There's also the Jade Egg program on my website that you can also, they're both self-paced and there's so much content. It's just a way of, again, finding your pleasure, diving in. The Sacred Pleasure membership is like so potent. It's like $44 a month. And like, honestly, it's probably worth 1,000 plus a month with the amount of content in that library in there. And I keep hearing from clients of, oh my gosh, this has literally changed my life just being in there, and allowed them to access so much more grounding tools and nervous system regulation tools and resourcing and pleasure, right? So whatever you're looking for, whether you want to work together one-on-one or whether you want to do kind of more self-paced on your own, there's so many options. Reach out to one of us, to both of us, and let's get you started on your pleasure journey, because it literally is so much medicine. There's so much medicine. Your body, as mine has, will respond and ground and settle, and inflammation reduces, and mood improves, and so many things will come back into alignment through your body when you realign with your body with pleasure. So
It
yeah,
can truly change your life, and not just in an internal way. It can truly transform your life.
yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for a beautiful episode. Thank you again for joining me.
Thank you so much.
And you're so welcome, Donna. And we're going to drop all those links in the show notes. And mm, we could go on for hours. I know we could, but I'm going to enter here because it's a good place. Till next time, everyone.
Thank you.